Для меня Маханаим олицетворяет лучшее, что есть в нашей алие. Ее интеллект, ее идеализм, ее независимый характер. Сегодня, когда ассимилированное русскоязычное еврейство ищет пути назад к корням, к традиции, к иудаизму, будь то в Израиле, будь то в России, будь то в Америке или в Германии, нет лучшего проводника на этом пути, чем наш Маханаим. Мазаль тов.
For over 50 years, the Soviet Union suppressed any and every organized religious activity. The Judaism of the Jewish people was virtually erased, and only here and there did any traces remain. Only minute embers were left by the previous generation. Those elderly people held onto the faint memory, but they had no successors. The early 60s, those few Jews who opposed the evil were still lacking a clear vision. Their dreams were not yet channeled.
Most of those who were not accepting that regime were against it very silently. The decisive factor was the Six-Day War.
Jews everywhere were torn by the passion of that moment.
It was in the aftermath of the Six-Day War that their aspirations became clear. Machanaim was established as a Jewish learning group with a bold Zionist orientation, and it grew ever larger as an underground movement.
They didn't photograph us for the movies. On the contrary, if they wanted to photograph us, then it was for a different purpose.
The nucleus of Machanaim evolved from a learning group to a teaching group. Each of the founding 10 members began teaching students of their own, and within a few years, Machanaim grew to over 200 associates.
We met once a week. It was already dangerous.
Emissaries from Israel and the US came to the Soviet Union, and they opened new horizons for Machanaim. It was they who opened the windows to the world.
It was immediate chemistry. That immediately I connected with them, and I felt very much at home. I was teaching the teachers.
And then began the unforeseen downfall of the Soviet Union, side by side with the miraculous revival of the Jewish people.
We received accepted training in the whole history of the Israeli people, beginning from the non-conformism, like Abraham, our forefather, and up to Exodus from Egypt and receiving Torah.
In 1987, when the Iron Curtain began to fall, the first of Machanaim's people were allowed to emigrate to Israel, and in less than 3 years, all members of Machanaim arrived in Israel. Here in Israel, each Machanaim person could have returned to his trained for employment, but all those who knew them from the former Soviet Union implored them to continue. The Jewish people need you and your unique approach in Israel even more than in the Soviet Union.
And so we decided to continue this activity and continue it even now.
The Russian Jewry is a very unique one. It is a very interesting combination of a very high cultural and intellectual level with almost total ignorance on Jewish education. That is why we had to build our own way in building of these educational tools.
In a complex process, Machanaim continues to transmit the vital content necessary for Russian speakers to anchor their Jewish home in Israel through values, spirit, and heritage.
I believe that Machanaim make me and my family to feel very much at home in Israel.
It's the first time I revealed for myself what is it the Jewish culture.
Hjælp jøderne hjem, følger Machanaim hand i hand igennem alle disse år, og jeg virkelig vil takke der, og vil hilse der, og velsigne der, med velsignelsen, som er fra Jerusalem. Alt det bedste, have et pragtfuldt besøg her.
the relationship that blossomed between the Norwegians and Machanaim under the banner Help Jews Home continues to flourish to this very day. And as a result, Machanaim continues to operate out of the center of downtown Jerusalem.
It is our task to pass the impact we received from those miracles to the day-to-day life.
Here in Ma'ale Adumim, Machanaim developed the Ma'ale Machanaim neighborhood with 87 housing units. Machanaim conducts a wide range of activities: text study workshops, lectures, study days for educators, photo and art exhibitions, outings in the country, tours, and a whole social action agenda.
Tour in Jerusalem, a journey in the land of Israel, is more than just a visual experience. It's a story. Every place is connected to the story, and every name that you hear is connected to your collective national memory.
Machanaim has, since its inception, produced tens of Jewish Russian language books. A few of them were distributed even in hundreds of thousands of copies worldwide. Among other activities, Machanaim is involved in a weekly TV production on Parshat HaShavua in Russian on Israel's Channel 9.
Здравствуйте, мы снова вместе в канун Шаббата, и я этому очень рад.
Черный кирпич – это революция. Это материал более прочный, и это подражание Творцу.
Machanaim is the only Russian-language organization with a religious Zionist mindset active amongst the Jews from the former Soviet Union.
The openness to the unknown is one of the major factors in inner growth, and I think it is the factor that helped us to find our own Jewish identity, and it helps us and our students to build cross-cultural language with those of very different cultural background.
And this brings me back associatively to Machanaim, the initial Machanaim of our forefathers, of Yaakov, where Yaakov had to meet Esav, the other, the stranger who is himself. Yaakov had to create a fragmented identity, an identity where, an unstable identity, an identity where his half was here and his half was there, which meant that the identity was always in the air between the two. And that was the old tradition of preparation for encounter.
There are two as if opposite directions. One is to absorb the new, to adopt new forms, new methods of teaching our ancient but vibrant and developing tradition. And the second is to keep the old, to build on the solid basis that we have worked out during all those years. And the trick, I think, is to combine both directions.
The special background of our teachers and the pedagogic tools which they developed in answer to the target audience's requests are in demand by a growing audience. In answer to a need generated by its audiences, Machanaim is fast becoming a Jewish Zionist educational network active in Israel and worldwide.
The building of the links between different sections of Israeli people is one of the most important and urgent challenges for the Machanaim's future and for the future of the whole Israeli society.
Machanaim today is dealing not with the issues of immigration and adoption of its second stage, not with the issues of Jewish identity of its first stage, but of cultural dialogue. How to create a language in this country where people of difference can come together and speak. Differences can join.
We, thank God, live here and will continue to live here, and our children are flourishing here. And we would like that other Jews who come to Israel and plan to live here should feel the connection between themselves and the people of Israel, between themselves and the land of Israel, just the way we feel it.
We never forget that we are newcomers. And I think that God would like that a human being feels here like at home, but never forgets that he is a guest.